Yagyavalkya Upanishad, presented by Svayam Prakash Sharma, Part 2. This is the concluding part of the Upanishad, in which the sage Yagyavalkya continues with his discourse on renunciation, with special emphasis on the Paramhansa Sannyasi. The Upanishad. Continuing his discourse, the sage Yagyavalkya tells King Janak, the Paramhansa Sannyasi has the form of a newborn. He is unclad, that is, he is without clothes, just as he was when he was born. The Paramhans is unaffected by the pairs of opposites, such as heat and cold, such as pleasure and pain, and the like. They do not affect him in any way. He accepts nothing but food as alms, and that too just enough food for his bare sustenance, just food sufficient to keep his body and soul together. He is well established on the path of the truth of Brahma. He is pure in mind. He receives the food that he gets as alms directly into his mouth. That is, literally, he receives the food in the vessel of his stomach, and that too only at the prescribed time, and only that much which is just sufficient to sustain life. He is equal-minded in whether he gets food as alms or he does not get it. It does not matter to him whether he gets food or not. He drinks water from the palm of his hand or from a water body. He keeps alms only to store directly in his belly. He is equanimous in his gain or loss of water. It does not matter to him whether he gets the water or not. For shelter, he seeks a place which is free from disturbance and which is in a solitary location, such as an unoccupied house, a temple, a clump of tall grass, a haystack, an anthill, the shade of a tree, a potter's hut, a hut where ritual fire is kept, the sandy bank of a river, a mountain thicket, a cave, the hollow of a tree near a waterfall, or on a piece of clean ground. He does not reside in a fixed abode. He makes no effort whatsoever for any kind of gainful activity, and he is deeply intent on the uprooting of both good and bad actions. Such a sage, who finally gives up his body in the state of renunciation, is indeed a Paramhans. So it has been said, so it has been declared. The Paramhans Sannyasi is unclad. He wears no clothes. He is literally clothed by the points of a compass, by the four directions. He salutes no one. He bows down to no one. He has no desire for wife or for son. He is above both aim and non-aim. Such a mendicant monk becomes the supreme God. There are the following verses in this regard. Such a sannyasi should pay obeisance only to another sannyasi who became a sannyasi earlier than him and who is equal to him in all the characteristics. Apart from such a one, the Paramhansa Sannyasi should pay obeisance to no one. He should bow to no one. However, there are some people who pass off as sannyasis, who are careless, whose minds still remain attracted to the outward phenomena of the world, who are bearers of tales and who are ever eager to quarrel with others. The views of such sannyasis are condemned by the Vedas. they are not true sannyasis. If a sannyasi remains in identity with the highest self-effulgent Brahm or Atma, the Brahm which is beyond name, form, etc., then to whom shall such a knower of the Atma pay obeisance or bow down to? For such a one, the act of bowing down to others should never be done. However, if the sannyasi is convinced that the Supreme God has indeed entered into all beings as the individual self or as the individual Atma, then in that case, the sannyasi may fully prostrate himself on the ground, even before a dog, even before an outcast, even before a cow, or even before a donkey, because then he is bowing down before the Supreme God. Now we come to some major obstacles on the path of liberation for man. One is sexual urge, and the other is desire for son. The third is anger. Now we discuss them one by one. Anything that has the propensity to arouse sexual urge in a person must be avoided like poison. After all, what possibly could we see charming in man or woman, both of whom are but dolls made up of flesh, in a cage of limbs, moved by machinery, and that are conglomerate of tendons, bones, and joints? Are the eyes of a woman charming when you look at them after they have been dissected into skin, into flesh, into blood, and into tears? Then why do you get infatuated in vain? In the same manner, O sage, is seen the pearl necklace which shines brightly, adorning women in the onrush of the Ganga water flowing down the shiny slopes of Mount Meru. In cemeteries that are situated in remote areas, parts of the human body that appear very attractive, those very parts are often eaten by wild dogs as if they were small morsels of food. What appears attractive to the eyes, such as long hair and women who put on kajal, women who are difficult to touch, for a person who seeks liberation, because of their propensity to arouse passions, they are like the fire of sin, as they burn men as though those men were just straw. Sexual attraction that is both pleasing and cruel is the fuel for the hellfire that can inflame even from a distance. And even though this sexual attraction may appear juicy, it is in fact totally devoid of any flavor whatsoever. Sexual attraction, whether in the form of man or woman, should be seen for what it is. It is but the net that is spread by the hunter called Cupid for the purpose of entangling the bodies of other men and women who are in the form of birds. Sexual attraction in the form of men or women is the bait that is put in the fish hook on the string of evil propensity to catch people who are in the form of fish, people who are swimming in the pond of worldly life and who are active in the mud, the murk and the dirt of the mind. Therefore, enough of such men and women for me forever. Men and women who are the strong caskets to preserve all the evils, all the gems of evil propensity, and who are the chains, who are the bonds of misery. The person who has a woman with him, he has a desire for enjoyment. Where is the scope for enjoyment for the person who is without woman? For man, discarding woman is discarding worldly life And it is only after discarding worldly life that a person can be truly happy. Now we come to desire for son. When people do not have a son for long, they worry because they do not have a son. When, however, a son is obtained in the mother's womb, then again it could be a cause for worry due to possibility of miscarriage or due to the pangs of birth. When the boy is born, then there is worry of evil stars, then there is worry of illness and the like, and then there is always the possibility that he could take to evil ways. When the boy is invested with sacred thread, the Yagyavalkya, he does not become learned, and if he does indeed become learned and wise, then he refuses to marry. In youth he may take to adultery, etc. And he may have the curse of poverty when he has a family. And if he is rich, he may die suddenly. So, there is no end of worry due to a son. The good ascetic or the good sannyasi has no fickleness of hands and feet. He does not fidget. He is not unsteady in his eyes. His eyes do not wander. And he is not loose with his speech. He does not indulge in loose talk. Conquering his senses, he becomes one with Brahm. Now we come to anger. When a person of discrimination, a person who is able to distinguish between the true and the untrue, when such a person sees equality and oneness between an enemy, a prisoner, and his own body, then where is the scope for anger? Just as where is the scope of anger against the limbs of one's own body? If you have anger against a wrongdoer, that is, if you get angry at a person because that person has done wrong, then how is it that you do not have anger against anger itself? For it is anger that blocks the path to duty. It is anger that blocks the path to wealth. It is anger that blocks the path to love. And it is anger that blocks the path to liberation. Therefore, if you must have anger, let that anger be directed at anger itself. Therefore, I salute the anger that is directed at anger, which sets ablaze its substratum and which gives a person dispassion and awakens the person to his own faults. Where most people are always asleep, the man of self-control is wide awake. Where most people are vigilant and awake, there, O wise one, the prince among the yogis is in deep sleep. Be convinced of this, that there is consciousness here. All that is here, all this is nothing but consciousness alone. And all this is pervaded by consciousness. You are consciousness and I am consciousness. And all these worlds are of consciousness. Sannyasis should accept this, the highest position of being a Paramhans. O best of sages, there is nothing higher than this. Yes, there is nothing higher than this. This concludes the Yagyavalkya Upanishad. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om.